The Orion sector was quiet, too quiet. For centuries, alien civilizations like the Varkon Empire had patrolled its edges, confident that the stars were theirs to explore and control. But on one cold blue planet, hidden in the small spiral of the Milky Way, something stirred that would change everything. The Varkon Command Center on Zerath Prime buzzed with activity. Lights blinked across massive consoles, and officers moved with disciplined precision. At the center of it all, Commander Sareth stood tall, his eyes fixed on a strange signal flickering on the screen. It was a simple message, almost primitive in its tone. Do not invade. Do not provoke. We will defend ourselves, Sareth frowned. The message repeated several times, sent across frequencies the Varkons rarely monitored. It came from a small, seemingly insignificant planet, Earth. His analysts shrugged. Primitive world, one said. Probably a warning to its own species. Sareth tapped a clawed finger on the console. Send a scout fleet. Verify the threat. If it is nothing, we proceed as planned. The Varkons had been watching Earth for months, noting its slow progress. Its technology was basic compared to theirs, its defenses weak. But something about the planet was unsettling. Even the brightest minds among the Varkons felt a shiver when analyzing the signal. They dismissed it. A simple precaution, they believed, was all that was needed. Meanwhile, on Earth, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the attention their planet had drawn. Cities thrived, children laughed, and satellites orbited silently above. But there were humans who noticed anomalies in the sky, strange lights, objects moving faster than any aircraft. Scientists debated, but their warnings were lost in the noise of everyday life. Then one night, the first Varkon scout ships arrived. They glided silently through the atmosphere, scanning and mapping. Their mission: observe, then prepare for control. In orbit above the Pacific, a young scientist named Dr. Lila Moreno noticed the anomaly. Her instruments detected sudden, unusual energy signatures. She adjusted her telescope and gasped. Tiny ships, small but clearly artificial, moved against the stars with impossible speed. Her heart raced. She sent out a warning to global space authorities, but her message was treated as a glitch, an overreaction. She felt alone against the weight of disbelief. By the time the Varkon scouts approached Earth's orbit, humanity had barely noticed. Most people saw them as shooting stars or satellites. The Varkons assumed their presence was still secret, believing their power unmatched. But humans were not defenseless. While the Varkons believed technology alone made them superior, they had underestimated human ingenuity and will. The first encounter happened without warning. One scout ship hovered over the Pacific, scanning the surface. Satellite systems in the area flickered. Dr. Moreno's instruments lit up with warnings. She barely had time to send a new alert before the ship activated an energy beam, intended for analysis, but strong enough to fry circuits in a wide area. Coastal cities flickered as satellites died, and communications went dark. Military radars across the world lit up with unidentifiable blips. Governments scrambled jets, but the Varkons were faster. Scout ships zipped through the skies, evading radar and missiles with ease. Then came humanity's first strike. Teenagers in a small observatory in New Mexico had been experimenting with hacking amateur satellites. Using a combination of old software and creative coding, they managed to redirect one of the Varkon's probes. The ship twitched, systems overloaded, and it crashed harmlessly into the desert. This small victory was the first sign that humans were unpredictable. The Varkons could not understand it. Every strategy they used failed against the human spirit. Every attempt at intimidation met with resistance. Humans improvised, adapted, and fought back using whatever they had. Sareth observed from his command center. He had expected fear, surrender, perhaps a few skirmishes, but humans were unlike any species he had encountered. They fought without armor, without massive fleets, but with cleverness, courage, and unity. One human pilot, a young woman named Captain Alara Hayes, became a legend even in this first encounter. Using a small but nimble fighter, she led a group of civilian drones to confuse and disable several scout ships. They weren't trying to destroy, they were learning, observing, and testing the enemy's weaknesses. Sareth felt frustration like never before. His scanners, his calculations, his centuries of military knowledge, nothing predicted humans. They were chaotic, fearless, and relentless. He called his top strategist. "Prepare a warning," he ordered. We cannot underestimate them. Perhaps their primitive weaponry will not matter. But we must caution our forces. There is something different about this species. The strategist hesitated. Commander, the warning. The message we received, do not invade. Perhaps they were serious. Perhaps we should retreat. Sareth's eyes narrowed. Retreat is for the weak. Humans are nothing. We will proceed. Prepare the fleet for full engagement. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Moreno continued to watch the skies. She had no weapons, no army, just her instruments and knowledge. But she understood one thing clearly. Humanity had been noticed, and the warning had been ignored. For the next few days, the Varkons probed deeper. Ships appeared over major cities, attempting to test human reactions. People panicked at first. Military forces mobilized. Then humans struck back. Drones, satellites, and even improvised tech managed to disable or misdirect several ships. Civilians and soldiers alike worked together, showing remarkable unity. In space, Sareth's fleet sustained its first serious losses. Reports came in, ships captured, technology reversed engineered almost immediately. Humans weren't just defending. They were learning, adapting, and preparing for more. The Varkon Council grew uneasy. Their arrogance was challenged for the first time in centuries. They could conquer worlds, bend lesser species to their will, and crush rebellion. But humans, these seemingly fragile beings, were resistant to fear, adaptable and clever beyond measure. Sareth sat alone in his private chamber, staring at the planet below. Its oceans gleamed in the sunlight and cities sparkled with energy. It was so small, so simple, yet so alive. They fight with their hearts, he muttered. Not just their weapons, there is something in them that cannot be measured. That night, Dr. Moreno sent one final message. Her words were simple but urgent. They are here. They are watching. Do not assume we are defenseless. They will come. Prepare humanity. Her warning went largely ignored by the larger world, lost in disbelief and bureaucracy. But among those who heard it, a seed of determination took root. Humanity would not wait to be conquered. They would rise. They would fight. And far above, Sareth prepared his forces for what he thought would be a quick victory. He had overlooked the warning. He did not know that he had just awakened a species whose greatest weapon was not their ships or lasers, but their refusal to surrender, their courage and their unity. The first chapter of human defiance had begun, and the galaxy would never forget it. Months passed since the first Varkon scouts appeared above Earth. Humanity had not only survived, they had learned. The initial shock had awakened something deep within people, a determination to protect their home, their families, and their freedom. Across Earth, scientists, engineers, and civilians worked together like never before, transforming ordinary technology into tools of defense. In orbit above the Pacific, Captain Alara Hayes prepared her squadron for what might become humanity's first true space battle. Her ship, Vigilant Dawn, gleamed under the reflection of the sun. Beside her, a small fleet of human pilots checked systems, studied tactical displays, and whispered nervous encouragements. None of them had ever fought in space before, but courage was not born of experience. It was born of necessity. Remember, Alara said, her voice calm but firm over the comms, they underestimate us. That's our advantage. They expect fear, confusion. Let's give them surprise instead. Meanwhile, far above, the Varkon command on GalacticPrime monitored the preparations below. Grand Marshal Sareth had assembled a fleet far larger than the scouts, intending to teach humans that defiance came with consequences. Thousands of ships moved silently across the void, their weapons ready, their crews confident. Sareth's confidence, however, had begun to waver. Reports from the first encounter were disturbing. Humans had not only resisted, they had adapted in hours, learning the weaknesses of Varkon drones and satellites. Every attempt at intimidation had failed, replaced by creative countermeasures. Captain, Sareth said to his tactical officer, are we certain they have no allies? No hidden weapons we cannot see? The officer shook his head. Commander, by all measures, their technology is primitive, but their behavior, unpredictable. They do not act like other species. Sareth clenched his claws. Then we will teach them predictability. The first true battle began when Varkon warships appeared in orbit above the Atlantic. Earth's defenses had improved thanks to months of preparation. Satellites were armed with makeshift EMP devices. Communication arrays were fortified, and human pilots trained relentlessly on simulators. Ilara's squadron led the first engagement. Using stealth drones, they created illusions, masking their positions while guiding Varkon ships into narrow corridors of space, where Earth's defenses were strongest. Missiles, once primitive by alien standards, were guided with deadly accuracy using human ingenuity. For the first time, the Varkons experienced losses beyond expectation. One by one, their ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Even a single human squadron, tiny compared to the massive fleet, caused confusion and panic. On the surface, governments and civilians watched in awe as live feeds displayed the battle. Humanity's ingenuity shone through every maneuver. Engineers in orbit rerouted energy from research satellites to reinforce defense systems. Teenagers hacking amateur drones found ways to disrupt alien sensors. Humanity fought not with sheer power but with creativity, courage, and teamwork. Ilara noticed patterns in the Varkon attacks. Their ships moved predictably, relying on superior speed and firepower. Human pilots adapted quickly. When a Varkon frigate launched a missile swarm, her squadron divided, forcing the missiles to scatter and collide with one another. When a cruiser attempted a flanking maneuver, Earth satellites intercepted signals, jamming their navigation. It was more than battle. It was a lesson in adaptability. Humans studied, learned, and improved faster than Sareth had ever imagined possible. Amid the chaos, a small civilian fleet joined the defense. Cargo ships retrofitted with energy shields and laser turrets became unexpected heroes. Pilots who had never flown combat ships guided these vessels in strategic positions, creating choke points for Varkon forces. One by one, the alien ships began to fall, not through brute force but through clever tactics the Varkons could not anticipate. Sareth's communications crackled. "Commander Sareth, they are learning from every engagement. They are adapting faster than simulations predicted." "Impossible," Sareth growled. "They are primitive. They cannot comprehend advanced strategies." Yet the evidence could not be denied. Humans studied captured drones, repurposed their weapons, and even hacked Varkon communication networks. Within hours of the first strike, Earth forces were anticipating enemy moves. In the midst of battle, a young engineer on the Vigilant Dawn, Leo Tanaka, discovered a vulnerability in Varkon ship shields. Sharing it with Ilara, they coordinated a daring strike. Using small fighter swarms, they pierced the shields of a cruiser and disabled its engines. For the first time, the Varkons realized humans were not only defending, they were capable of offense. On the ground, Dr. Moreno continued to monitor the fight. Her warnings had gone unheeded in the past, but now the world watched in awe. Humanity had stood together, united against a threat that had once seemed unbeatable. Her research had contributed to satellite defenses, drone tactics, and energy rerouting. She smiled, knowing that her work had saved countless lives. Despite the human victories, Sareth refused to concede. Retreat was not an option for the Varkon Empire. Their fleets regrouped in the asteroid belt near Mars, preparing for a more calculated strike. Sareth ordered his ships to study human tactics, but every analysis revealed the same frustrating truth. Humans did not rely solely on technology. Their greatest weapon was their unpredictable creativity and the willingness to work together under pressure. Ilara and her squadron continued to strike with precision. They attacked supply ships, disabled warships, and even set traps in asteroid fields. Every success boosted human morale. Every Varkon defeat taught them something new. In one daring mission, Ilara piloted Vigilant Dawn through a narrow corridor between two moons. Using the gravitational pull as cover, her squadron launched a surprise strike on a Varkon cruiser. The attack disabled the cruiser's engines and forced it into a collision with a nearby asteroid. Humans cheered, but Ilara knew this was only the beginning. "This is just the first wave," she said to her team. "They will come back stronger. We need to be ready." Sareth, observing the battle from Zerath Prime, grew increasingly uneasy. His pride had been wounded, and the losses were a stain on the Varkon Empire's reputation. He realized that humans were not just defending, they were learning to hunt. They study, they adapt, and they never give up. Sareth admitted to his council. "We underestimated them. Next time we must proceed with caution." But for humanity, caution was not an option. They had tasted victory, and they had seen what unity could achieve. Earth was no longer a small, defenseless planet. It was a world willing to fight, capable of defending itself and ready to teach the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. As night fell over the Pacific, Alara gazed at the stars. Ships glided silently above, some returning from battle, others patrolling for new threats. She knew that the war had only begun. But she also knew that humanity had something the Varkans could never understand: resilience, courage, and the relentless drive to protect their own. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Sareth prepared for the next encounter, unaware that he had awakened a species whose ingenuity and spirit would challenge the galaxy itself. The first battles had been harsh but enlightening. Humanity had survived the initial Varkan attacks and learned far more than any alien could have predicted. Earth's leaders realized that staying defensive was no longer enough. The Varkans would not stop. Their arrogance and belief in superiority demanded another confrontation. In the war rooms of the Earth Coalition fleet, Admiral Alara Hayes studied maps of the Orion sector. Humans had advanced rapidly in months that felt like years. Every encounter had taught them something new: how the Varkans moved, how their shields worked, how their communication networks operated. Humanity had turned these lessons into weapons. "We cannot wait for them to attack again," Alara told her officers. "We have the knowledge, the skill, and the will to take the fight to them. It is time to show the galaxy that Earth is not defenseless." Engineers worked tirelessly, retrofitting cargo ships into stealth vessels, arming research satellites with energy disruptors, and reverse engineering captured Varkan drones. Scientists like Dr. Lila Moreno became strategists, combining their knowledge of physics and human ingenuity into new offensive technologies. Humanity was no longer simply defending. They were preparing to hunt the hunters. The Varkans, meanwhile, had grown wary. Grand Marshal Sareth had spent months analyzing human behavior, hoping to predict their next move. Yet humans had continued to surprise him. They did not simply flee or surrender. They adapted, they planned, and they struck at weak points the Varkans never imagined. "They are learning too quickly," Sareth admitted to his council. "This is not just resistance. They are evolving tactics in real time." His advisors shook their heads. "Commander, they are primitive. Their ships cannot match ours in speed or firepower." Sareth's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps. But strength alone does not win wars. Intelligence, creativity, and unity. These humans possess in abundance. We must proceed with caution, or the Empire will suffer greatly." The humans' first major offensive beyond the solar system was bold. Using stealth drives reverse-engineered from captured drones, small fleets slipped past Varkan patrols near Mars and moved into the asteroid belt, setting traps and disabling supply lines. Varkan colonies in the outer belt were unprepared for attacks from ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Alara commanded the Vigilant Dawn at the forefront. Her squadron struck with precision, targeting energy relays and communications hubs. One by one, Varkan colonies fell silent, their leaders panicking as their soldiers could not understand how a smaller, weaker enemy could strike so effectively. Back on Earth, celebrations were cautious but heartfelt. Humanity had taken the fight to alien territory. Each success was proof that intelligence, courage, and determination could overcome even the most advanced technology. In one daring mission, Alara led a fleet through the Hadeon Nebula, a dense cloud of gas and rocks that interfered with most sensors. There they ambushed a Varkan supply convoy. Using human creativity, they set up decoys and traps, forcing enemy ships to collide with asteroids or deactivate to avoid collisions. The human fleet emerged victorious, capturing advanced Varkan engines for further study. "Every encounter teaches us more about them," Alara said to her team. "We will not make the mistakes they did. We will be ready for whatever comes next." Her second-in-command, Commander Rian Solis, nodded. "It is amazing how quickly we learn. But I worry we are changing. This hunger for victory, it could become dangerous if we are not careful." Alara studied him. "We fight because we must. It is not hunger, it is survival and protection. We have no choice but to be better." As human fleets pushed further, Varkan colonies whispered tales of a new, unstoppable force. Humans moved like shadows among the stars, appearing suddenly, striking decisively, and disappearing before retaliation could begin. They were becoming legends, feared and respected even by their enemies. Sareth watched reports of these attacks with increasing frustration. The empire he had known, built on centuries of dominance, was being dismantled by a species he had dismissed as weak. Entire systems surrendered without a fight, terrified of what humans could do next. Yet Sareth refused to admit defeat. We underestimated them once. Never again. We will prepare a fleet so vast and precise that no human fleet can survive. But humans had changed as well. Their victories had shown them the power of unity and ingenuity. Scientists, engineers, and pilots shared ideas freely. Small successes became lessons for the entire fleet. Humanity's adaptability was not a weakness. It was a strength multiplied across every ship and colony. In the midst of expansion, a message arrived from a distant human research station. A previously unknown Varkon outpost had sent a distress signal. Scientists quickly analyzed it and discovered that the outpost had advanced weapons capable of mass destruction. If left unchecked, it could turn the tide against humanity. Alara made a bold decision. She would lead a surgical strike, neutralizing the outpost without endangering civilian worlds. Using stealth drives and cunning tactics, her fleet navigated asteroid fields, avoided patrols, and arrived undetected. The battle was precise. Human engineers hacked into the outpost systems, deactivating weapons and turning surveillance against the Varkons. Within hours, the outpost was silent, its technology now in human hands. Alara watched the aftermath. "We are stronger because we adapt, because we are clever, because we work together," she said quietly. "This is our power." Not all humans agreed with this expansion, however. Commander Ryan Solis voiced concerns about the risks of becoming too aggressive. "We are fighting for survival, yes, but we must not forget who we are. Victory is not only measured by conquest, but by the principles we protect." Alara considered his words. "I understand, Ryan, but we cannot wait for them to strike again. They will come. And when they do, we must be ready, not just to defend, but to ensure they cannot threaten Earth or its people ever again." The tension between caution and aggression became a quiet undercurrent among human leaders. Yet one truth remained. Humans had discovered their strength, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The turning point came when human fleets reached the edge of the Varkon-controlled systems. Entire colonies surrendered at the mere sight of human ships. It was not fear of death. It was fear of what humanity represented: unpredictable intelligence, unity, and relentless will. On one captured Varkon colony, survivors whispered about humans appearing from nowhere, attacking with precision, and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. "They are not like any species we have known," one soldier said. "They learn, adapt, and strike as one. We were warned. But we ignored it." Sareth's counsel grew uneasy. The Empire's greatest strength, control through fear and technology, was failing. Humans were rewriting the rules of engagement, not with brute force alone, but with ingenuity and unity. Back on Earth, Dr. Moreno looked at the stars from her observatory. She had watched humanity evolve from a threatened planet into a galactic force capable of striking fear into advanced civilizations. Her research had become a cornerstone of human strategy, proving that knowledge and creativity were as important as weapons. Alara stood at the command deck of Vigilant Dawn, gazing into the void. "We are no longer defenders," she said. "We are protectors. And if anyone threatens our home, we will not hesitate. Humanity will rise. Humanity will endure. Humanity will win." Somewhere in the distant stars, Sareth planned his next move, unaware that the humans he had once dismissed were now more than survivors. They were hunters in their own right. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of that change. The first defense had been successful. The first retaliation had been decisive, and humanity had only just begun. The stars were silent witnesses as humanity's fleets approached the edge of Varkon space. After years of struggle, adaptation, and relentless pursuit, the Earth Coalition fleet had grown into a force no one in the galaxy could ignore. Ships of all sizes, retrofitted and armed with human ingenuity, moved in precise formations. The humans had learned not only to fight, they had learned to hunt. Admiral Alara Hayes stood on the bridge of her flagship, Vigilant Dawn, gazing into the darkness beyond the edge of the Orion sector. Her mind was calm yet alert. Every fleet she commanded, every tactic she planned was born from experience and observation. Humans had grown stronger, faster, and smarter than any enemy expected. "We are at the frontier," Alara said to her officers. "Beyond this point, Varkon homeworlds begin. Every decision we make now must be precise. We cannot afford mistakes." Her second-in-command, Commander Ryan Solis, leaned forward. "Alara, I worry. We are strong, yes, but are we losing our way? We have power now. That is dangerous if we let it consume us. Ilara studied him for a moment. Power without purpose is dangerous. But we fight not for glory, Rian, we fight for protection. That will guide us. The Varkons had not remained idle. Grand Marshal Sareth had spent months rebuilding fleets, fortifying colonies, and preparing for humanity's inevitable arrival. Intelligence reports indicated that humans were learning faster than anticipated, reverse engineering weapons, and outmaneuvering fleets far larger than theirs. This species is extraordinary, Sareth admitted to his council. They are not like any we have encountered. They adapt, they think, and they unite. We cannot assume our strength alone will defeat them. A Varkon tactician spoke up. Grand Marshal, perhaps negotiation. Sareth's eyes burned. Negotiation failed once. They will accept nothing less than equality. If we do not act decisively, our empire will crumble. Prepare all fleets. We will strike before they reach our core systems. The first encounter near Varkon space was tense. Human stealth ships slipped through patrol zones, disabling satellites and supply lines. The Varkons scrambled to respond, but humans were already anticipating their movements. Ambushes were set in asteroid fields. Energy nets disabled cruisers, and decoys caused confusion among enemy forces. Ilara coordinated every strike with precision. One small human squadron, hidden among the shadows of a gas giant, disabled an entire Varkon frigate convoy without being detected. Reports flooded her bridge. Humanity's strategy was working. They were not just defenders anymore, they were predators in the void. Yet even in victory, tension brewed. Humans had begun to feel the cost of their relentless pursuit. Some crew members expressed unease over the destruction they caused, wondering if they risked becoming what they had once feared. Rian approached Ilara privately. We are winning battles, yes, but at what cost? Entire systems surrender before a fight. These people, these Varkons, fear us. That is power, but it is also a warning. We must remember who we are. Ilara nodded. I hear you, Ryan, but fear is a tool. It keeps people alive when other methods fail. Our goal is to end the war quickly. With as few losses as possible, we will not lose ourselves in this fight. Meanwhile, Varkon colonies trembled at humanity's approach. Stories spread of the silent, unstoppable fleets moving between stars, striking swiftly and disappearing before retaliation. Their precision left survivors in awe and terror. Humans did not kill recklessly. They disabled, captured, and repurposed. But their presence was enough to inspire fear. On one border planet, a Varkon governor whispered to his council, "The humans are unlike any species we have faced. They strike, vanish, and strike again. We cannot predict them. Our fleets are no longer safe even in the heart of our territory." Sareth, listening to these reports, knew that the humans had changed the rules of engagement. They had turned fear, ingenuity, and unity into weapons as effective as any laser or missile. Ilara's fleet approached the first Varkon capital system. The planets were heavily defended, orbiting weapons platforms bristling with energy disruptors. Scouts reported that civilians were evacuated, leaving the system empty but guarded. Humans had learned to strike at strategic points, avoiding unnecessary collateral damage. The fleet paused at the edge of the system. Ilara surveyed the Varkon defenses through her holographic map. "We will not rush," she instructed. "We need a plan that works, not just brute force. Patience is our ally." Rian studied the map with concern. Even with stealth and strategy, this could escalate. "Are we prepared for casualties?" Ilara's gaze hardened. "Casualties will be minimal if we act smart. But yes, we must be ready for anything. Humanity survives because we adapt. This is no different." The first strike began with a coordinated attack on surveillance arrays. Stealth drones disabled energy grids, creating temporary blind spots in Varkon defenses. Small fighter squadrons swooped in, targeting shield generators and command satellites. The attack was swift, precise, and almost surgical. Varkon response was immediate, but human tactics had been studied, refined, and perfected. Every move the Varkons made was anticipated and countered. One by one, defense satellites were neutralized, leaving the system vulnerable but intact. Humans did not destroy the planets. They disabled defenses, leaving them capable of peace once the war ended. Even as victory seemed close, tension within the human fleet grew. Some officers whispered about the thin line between defense and aggression. Others argued that this decisive approach was necessary to prevent future attacks. Alara faced her team openly. We are not invaders. We are hunters only because we were provoked. Every system we disable, every fleet we neutralize is done to protect Earth and ensure our survival. We are not what we fight. We are humanity at its best. Her words reminded everyone of their purpose. Morale strengthened, and the fleet moved as one, silent, determined, and unstoppable. Far away, Sareth prepared for the inevitable human assault on his core systems. He marshaled fleets from distant colonies, assembling a force massive enough to crush any invader. Yet deep down he feared what he could not control: humans. They were unpredictable, relentless, and cunning beyond imagination. This war will not be like others, Sareth admitted to his council. They are learning, adapting, and striking like hunters. We cannot rely on our power alone. We must anticipate their ingenuity or the Empire will fall. The tension reached its peak when Alara's fleet entered the inner edge of the Varkon system. Energy beams crisscrossed the void, warning the humans to retreat. Communications were jammed. Surveillance tried to track every human ship, but humans had already planned for this. Stealth drives, decoy drones, and gravitational maneuvering allowed them to slip past the majority of defenses. Once in position, small strike teams disabled command stations, leaving Varkan forces disoriented and confused. Systems that had once seemed invincible were now exposed and vulnerable. Humans had not conquered through brute force. They had outsmarted their enemy at every turn. Alara watched the final disruption unfold. "This is our way," she said quietly. "We fight smart. We fight united. We protect humanity and we honor our principles." Ryan nodded. "We are strong. But let's not forget, our strength comes from who we are, not just what we have." The Varkons were forced to retreat, regroup, and rethink everything they knew. Humans had turned the battlefield into a lesson in ingenuity and unity, showing that even a technologically inferior species could dominate with strategy, courage, and adaptability. As the human fleets moved beyond the system, the galaxy whispered of Earth's power. Humans were no longer simply defenders. They were hunters in the stars, capable of striking fear into even the most advanced civilizations. Alara stood at the bridge of vigilant dawn, gazing into the stars. "The first step is done," she said softly. "But the hunt is only beginning. We will ensure that humanity is never threatened again." And somewhere in the distant void, Sareth watched, knowing that the humans who had once been underestimated were now the galaxy's greatest challenge. The blackness of space stretched endlessly as humanity's fleets approached the heart of the Varkon Empire. The journey had been long, filled with victories and lessons, but the end was near. Every human ship glinted with purpose, every crew member ready to face the culmination of years of struggle. Humanity was no longer just a defender. They were a force capable of reshaping the galaxy. Admiral Alara Hayes stood on the bridge of vigilant dawn, her eyes fixed on the Varkon homeworld that loomed in the distance. Its surface was dotted with massive cities, orbital weapons platforms, and fleets that had once been feared across the stars. Yet, for all its power, the planet seemed quiet, almost apprehensive. The humans were coming, and the Varkons knew it. "Everyone ready?" Alara's voice was steady, but her mind was alert. "We have studied, we have trained, and we have adapted. This is not just a battle. It is the moment we prove that humanity cannot be underestimated." Commander Rian Solis stood beside her, his expression serious. "Alara, this will test us all. I only hope that when it is over, we remember who we are." "Strength is nothing without purpose," Alara nodded. "Purpose is our guiding star, Ryan. We fight to protect, to endure, and to show that courage can change the course of history." Grand Marshal Sareth observed from the surface of his homeworld. His fleets were ready, his orbital defenses primed, and his soldiers trained to repel any invasion. Yet deep inside he felt a growing unease. The humans were unlike any species he had encountered. They adapted faster than machines could calculate, anticipated moves that seemed impossible to predict, and fought with a unity he could not comprehend. "They are at our doorstep," Sareth said to his council. "Prepare the defenses. Every system, every fleet, every weapon, we will not fail." Yet they are different. They do not fear death, they do not yield, and they strike with precision. We must be cautious. One mistake could change everything. The first wave of the human assault was strategic and precise. Using stealth drives, human ships bypassed outer defenses, slipping past patrols and minefields. Small strike teams targeted communication arrays and energy grids, disabling them without destruction, leaving the planet itself unharmed. The humans' goal was clear. They sought to neutralize, not to annihilate. On the bridge of Vigilant Dawn, Ilara coordinated the attack. Focus on disabling command centers first. We do not destroy. They must remember what we are capable of. Fighter squadrons danced between orbital platforms using decoys and gravitational maneuvers to avoid detection. Every human ship worked in harmony, a ballet of technology and ingenuity. Even the Varkon's most advanced ships struggled to respond effectively. Despite the humans' skill, tension within their ranks was high. Some crew members whispered about the thin line between justice and vengeance. Others argued that decisive action was necessary to prevent future attacks. Rian approached Ilara. We are about to face their strongest defenses. Are we ready to maintain our principles when everything is at stake? Ilara's gaze was firm. We fight as humans, Ryan. Not as conquerors, not as executioners. Our strength is our unity, our courage, and our will. We will not forget that. The humans' coordination began to pay off. One by one, Varkon orbital weapons were disabled. Supply ships were captured or rerouted. Communications were jammed, leaving the defenders disoriented. The humans were methodical, precise, and relentless. In the midst of the operation, Ilara's squadron discovered a hidden fleet of Varkon reinforcements attempting to flank them. Using a combination of stealth and prediction, the humans set a trap. Asteroids and energy fields created a corridor that funneled the enemy into a confined space. The human fleet struck with ingenuity, forcing the Varkons to retreat. Captured ships provided valuable intelligence, revealing weaknesses in their shield technology and navigation systems. Humanity's ability to learn and adapt had turned the tide of the war. Even Sareth, observing from his command center, could not deny the truth. Humans had evolved from defenders to hunters, capable of striking fear into the very heart of his empire. They learn, they adapt, they are relentless, Sareth admitted quietly. We cannot predict them fully. Yet they are not monsters, they are intelligent, courageous, and united. Perhaps this is why we failed to conquer them. As the final push began, Ilara and Ryan led a coordinated assault on the Varkon capital's orbital defenses. The humans struck simultaneously from multiple directions, overwhelming the enemy with a combination of strategy, precision, and adaptation. One by one, the Varkon weapons platforms fell silent, their technology captured or disabled. The remaining Varkon fleets attempted a counterattack, but human ingenuity outpaced them. Fighters used decoys to mislead enemy targeting systems, stealth drones infiltrated command networks, and captured technology allowed humans to anticipate every move. The battlefield was a testament to human creativity, unity, and courage. Every ship, every pilot, every engineer played a role in the victory. The humans were not invincible, but their spirit made them unstoppable. Finally, the Varkon homeworld lay vulnerable. Civilians evacuated earlier were safe. The humans had not sought destruction. They had sought to end the threat and ensure that no species would ever underestimate humanity again. Ilara addressed her fleet. We have achieved what seemed impossible. But remember, our purpose is not to conquer. Our purpose is to protect, to endure, and to show that courage and unity can overcome even the greatest odds. Ryan added, This is the final reckoning. We must act with honor and wisdom. Victory is not only about power, it is about principles. Grand Marshal Sareth, facing defeat, made a final decision. He sent a message to Ilara, acknowledging the human strength and adaptability. You have proven what we failed to see, the message read. Humans are strong, united, and courageous. I surrender not out of fear but out of respect. Let this be a lesson to all. Underestimate no species. Ilara responded with humanity's hallmark: mercy, respect, and wisdom. She ensured that surrendering Varkons were treated fairly, their people safe and their systems left intact. Humanity's victory was complete, yet it carried the weight of responsibility. In the quiet that followed, humans stood together in space, reflecting on their journey. They had faced a powerful enemy, survived impossible odds, and learned the value of unity, courage, and ingenuity. Dr. Lila Moreno looked at the stars, her heart swelling with pride. Her work had helped protect humanity, but the true strength had been the people themselves, their creativity, their will, and their determination to defend their home. Ilara walked among her crew, observing their expressions. "We have won, yes," she said softly. "But remember, humanity's true strength is not in ships, weapons, or technology. It is in our courage, our unity, and our refusal to surrender. That is what makes us remarkable." Ryan smiled. "We have changed the galaxy, but we have not lost ourselves. That is our greatest victory." From the distance of space, the galaxy observed a species that had been underestimated, challenged, and dismissed. Humans had risen from their home planet to confront the unknown, adapt to challenges, and emerge victorious through courage, intelligence, and unity. Across countless worlds, survivors whispered tales of Earth, the small blue planet that had stood united against the mighty Varkon Empire, outsmarting, outmaneuvering, and outlasting their foes. The first contact that could have been humanity's end had become the beginning of a legacy. One simple truth remained clear. Humans had been underestimated once, and the galaxy would never make that mistake again. Admiral Ilara Hayes looked at the stars, knowing that humanity had only just begun. The future was wide open and full of possibilities. But one fact was certain: no matter the challenge, no matter the enemy, humanity would endure, rise, and prevail. And somewhere in the distant stars, the Varkons remembered the warning they had ignored, a warning they would never forget. Humans are relentless, clever, and united. They had faced the test and passed beyond expectation. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had risen, and the story of courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit had only begun to echo across the stars.